All season long on ShakeDown, we've done TrackDown interviews with SRT Viper's Tommy Kendall and Corvette Racing's Doug Fehan to get an insider's view of what's really going on in racing. Season's come to an end. Today we've got our last 2013 interview with Doug Fehan, but he's on the road at some undisclosed location, so we've got a great phone interview. Doug's typical Doug. I ask a few relevant questions, so here we go. So as I mentioned in the intro, welcome to the podcast. You kids do your homework, but listen up because we're here with Doug Fehan as they get ready for the 2014 TUDOR United SportsCar Championship with the one class in that new series that has some stability, the rules carrying forward. Corvette Racing is debuting their C7R starting at Daytona. Hey, Doug, thank you for taking some time and doing this little podcast with us.
Leo, I wouldn't miss the opportunity.
Oh, and the sarcasm begins. I'm going to stop this right now and get to the accolades and get it out of the way, because you just had a kick-ass season in the last season of America Le Mans. Correct me when I'm wrong, but won the team, manufacturers, drivers championships, and the Green GT championship, the Michelin GT. I mean, was this the first championship for GTE versus all your GT1 championships?
No, we quite frankly, we did the exact same thing last year.
I should be paying attention. Right, good.
And you forgot one, because we did win the vehicle Green X Challenge champion, which was the number 3 car.
Wow. Wow. And I'm going to get the numbers wrong. I'm not even sure you would know them all exactly, but over the course of Corvette Racing's heritage, we've won something like 80 plus race wins, 50 plus 1-2 finishes. I've lost count of the championships. Are we up to 9, 8? Where are we on that? I mean, how many things have you guys won as Corvette Racing? It's been phenomenal.
I think in the ALMS this year, 2013, the guys worked hard and got their 10th ALMS GT championship.
Fantastic. So I want to ask you this. You know, you and I have this ongoing relationship, and off camera I mentioned how I love off-camera Fehan, and then we've got the corporate responsibilities of being Doug Fehan. But without going into the corporate side of it, I'd love to ask you the question, what does it take for a team to be a winner? I mean, what is the essence of the success as you see it?
You know, if you had to put your finger on one thing, it is creating an environment in which all your people, A, feel comfortable, and B, can grow. If you can create that and sustain that, you're going to have a successful team. Now, granted, the bottom line is you have to have competent people. But you can take very competent people and put them in an environment that is just stifling to them, and you will not succeed. If you can put them in an environment in which they feel comfortable and they can grow into be everything that they want to be, you've got the formula for success. And at Pratt & Miller, I can tell you that company has provided that opportunity for people, and time again, I've watched them, individuals, just become really, really, really efficient, great, and bright racing people. And that's from engineers to crew guys to our transportation department, across the board. Put them in a place that they enjoy, and they will prosper.
So I just watched my Boston Red Sox win another World Series championship in Major League Baseball. And I'm old enough that I came from the generations where we used to watch the Red Sox out of the impending frustration of failure. And now they seem to win almost all the time. And it felt like to me that it wasn't one superstar that made it happen. There was something that happened in the management and the infrastructure and maybe the camaraderie. I say all that not to pump up my Bo Sox, but to ask you, is there something in there that's the essence of Corvette Racing that the Vipers and the BMWs and the Porsches should be aware of, that it's not just building a great car, there's something deep within Corvette Racing?
Well, if you ask me if Corvette Racing is going to present themselves next year as the imbeciles imitating Duck Dynasty, the answer is no. No, we're not going to do that. But yes, you're exactly right. If you look at ourselves as a model, year in, year out, dedicating ourselves to the series, that is what makes a significant difference. if you don't have that continuity, the starting and stopping, it takes a long time to get momentum up. So if you come into this as a manufacturer and you stay for 1 or 2 years and then something happens, you leave, and then a year goes by and you come back in, or you've got these guys doing it 1 year and you got another team doing it the next year, you don't build that continuity, and that's an important element to the success as I see it. And that's the advantage, I think. One of the advantages that we've had at Corvette Racing is the fact that we've been there continuously since 2000.
So the embargo is still on talking about the C7R, but Daytona is right around the corner. The only question I will ask is, I'm assuming that Corvette Racing is still going to use their model of testing separately from most of the public tests just to get your job done in the sanctity of focus?
Well, it's a very good question. And I can tell you this, that it's not with purpose that we don't participate in all the tests. It's what fits our schedule and, by the way, our economic model. So if, let's just say, the first series test was sometime in November, if we had waited until that point in time to begin our testing, we're behind the 8 ball. We got to go when we're ready.
Yeah.
And we do operate with a finite budget. So just the way those things, come together would cause us to make a decision. Either we're going to participate or we're not going to participate. It's not been universal that we haven't. There are times when we have done that, and that's because it fit the schedule.
So let's remind everyone of the connection of Corvette Racing to Daytona, because now Daytona is the kickoff race for the new United SportsCar Championship. Again, always fix my alleged facts. Your first professional race for Corvette.
Check today and make sure that's still the name of the series.
The TUDOR United SportsCar Championship?
Yeah.
No.
That changes on a regular basis.
Oh.
I haven't checked myself, though.
I'm just
anyway,
thinking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's just call it freaking Toby and get on with the racing. I hear you.
Right.
Daytona's been a core part of Corvette Racing. If I recall, your first race was at Daytona. I think maybe the first win was that fantastic Daytona 24 win. So let's talk a little bit about the connection for Daytona 24 and Corvette Racing. I mean, even though it's the first race of this new sports car championship, Corvette Racing's been there before. Doug, fix my facts if I get it wrong, but was it not your first professional race for Corvette Racing at maybe the 1999 Daytona 24, and maybe your first overall win was at the Daytona 24? Tell me what we're going to expect and maybe what needs to adjust to get this ex-ALMS car, and now a TUDOR United SportsCar Championship car, to the Daytona 24 to be great and maybe compete for the win.
Well, your facts are correct.
Yay.
In that 1999 was our debut of the C5. That was our very first race, and we led that race for, I don't know, maybe 20 hours. Developed an air filter situation and sandblasted all the piston rings out of the engine, and but still managed a podium finish, by the way.
Wow.
Which we thought was quite an accomplishment. I can tell you this: it's a huge challenge to debut a car at a 24-hour race. I mean, think about that. And people thought we were nuts in doing so, but we had been testing for a couple of years, and that's how you learn. It's what you have to do. So I think that revisiting this with C7 brings back some old memories. Our first victory actually was at Texas Motor Speedway, but the Daytona 24 winning there overall. We had lost it the year before overall by 32 seconds. I don't know if people realize that. We finished second by 32 seconds. That caused us to go back and be very introspective in looking at how we operated in the pit lane. That was kind of our epiphany to understand the value of pit work, because clearly 32 seconds over 24 hours is not a big deal in the pit lane. And I think that's what caused us really to begin the process of refining and orchestrating all our choreography that takes place in the pit lane and the value it has on winning races. It was a very, very wonderful experience for us losing by 32 seconds because it brought us to where we are today. And we followed up that following year, obviously, with winning overall. So it's kind of deja vu all over again, bringing a brand new car and debuting at Daytona. And we love the place. We couldn't be more excited to be back there. I think the fans are really, really, really going to enjoy this event.
So let's talk a little bit about two elements of that. Educate us all. Do you set the car up differently for Daytona banking, or is it really just a road course with a long straight that happens to kind of turn a little bit?
You know, I can tell you internally when we look at this, we're still trying to determine whether or not how relevant this is to Le Mans. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to find that there are some very distinct similarities. Number one, you spend a considerable amount of time at full throttle. Number two, obviously, with the amount of time there is on the racetrack to accelerate, I don't think we'll see the same top speed we see at Le Mans, because our corner entering speed, in other words, coming up onto the high bank there in turn one, your entering speed is probably 10 or 15 miles an hour slower than it would be coming onto the Mulsanne. And the banking, accelerating up and out of the banking tends to slow the car a little bit. So, but I think we're going to see some pretty impressive top speeds there. And I think that's what really we need to figure out. I know the challenge would be, just like it is at Le Mans, do we run low down and high speed, or high down and great infield times? So, and then you have to calculate in the tire wear as well, because when you change downforce on the car, you're changing tire wear and also brake wear. So we've got our plate pretty full in determining exactly what we're going to do with C7 for Daytona.
And I'm assuming the simulators are running, maybe the simulators are overheating during the preparation planning.
We have tremendous cooling efficiency on our supercomputer, and I think that in fact they will be of great assist to us in determining what we're going to end up with.
Okay, the second part of the question for Daytona and the whole sports car championship, do you envision the on-track action being different from your ALMS experience? I know the series keeps pumping up the fact there are going to be more cars, and Daytona and Sebring are clearly going to be oversubscribed, to use some type of corporate word. But, and I know, or I think I know, that sounded arrogant, your GTLM rules, you may be the only class that has set rules. Everyone else is still waiting for the finalization. But do you anticipate that things like traffic and brake zones are going to be different as a United Sports Car experience as you're racing around these cars and through the field versus your ALMS?
I have two concerns.
Yeah.
Number one certainly is car count. If we're not talking just about Daytona, if we're talking in general terms, car count is going to be an issue. It becomes an issue in two places. It becomes an issue on the racetrack with traffic, and it becomes an issue in the pit lane in your ability to operate efficiently and safely. Now, I have every confidence, and if you look at the schedule, in places that have limited pit lane access, we've thinned the herd a little bit, and we're not going to be racing 5 different classes of cars there. So right. That should help. And this year's going to be a learning year. I mean, here's what I've told people when I'm asked this question. I could think I'm the smartest guy on the planet and have somebody say, Doug, here's the keys, you just get this done the way you think it should be, and boy, the world will be great. Well, let me tell you, as smart as I think I might be, I can guarantee you this, I would not get it right the first year. Nobody's going to get it right the first year. We've got to be patient in this first year with everything that we do. We need to be patient and let this thing develop. The second area that I'm concerned with, and this is probably my primary concern, although I've mentioned it second, is that I have noticed in Grand Am that in running the Daytona prototypes and the GT cars, that the prototype guys treat the GT cars a lot rougher than we do in the American Le Mans series. Yeah. They don't demonstrate a high level of respect for them on the racetrack with contact and passing, and that simply I don't think is going to be acceptable. I don't think it's going to be tolerated by our race director. He runs a very tight ship in the American Le Mans series, and I expect that those guys in Grand Am will learn right away that the GT cars are to be respected. So we get those two things squared away, car count and on-track courtesy, and I think we're going to have a great series.
So here's where I go off script a little, because you make a great point about traffic and bumping and all that stuff. Tell me a little bit about, it seemed like there was less contact for the Corvettes. Did that radar thing really pay off?
Oh, there's no question.
Okay.
Absolutely no question. Let me tell you, here's the easiest way to judge that. All right, you put it in the car, you let the guys run around with it a little bit, you take it out of the car, and you wait for the response. If it's not that big a deal, you're not going to hear anything. Yeah. If they come to you and say, hey, what's up? Where's the radar? What radar? Well, you had it in there on our last session. I mean, can we get that thing working again? That's your judge. Yes, it plays a huge role in what we do. It's an amazing accomplishment by the boys at Pratt Miller. Just an amazing accomplishment. I made a presentation. I'm on the FIA Sporting Commission Working Group, and I'd let them know a couple of years ago we were working on this. And they asked me as soon as we got this done, could I bring it in front of them? And I put on a demonstration for them. They had seen it at Sebring on TV. It's the real deal, guys. Pratt Miller deserves a huge pat on the back for developing something that brings a brand new level of safety into the sport.
So I'm not going to pray off the part where it sounds like you treat your drivers like kids taking away their toys. But I'll use that as a segue to talk about drivers, because if I understand what's going on with the new series and drivers and their responsibilities with other teams as they used to be able to cross over from Grand Am to ALMS, you're in the selection thing for 2 new drivers for your endurance races. Is that correct for Corvette Racing?
I think that's a fair position to take. Without going into great detail on it, obviously in naming names, we have Richard Westbrook, who currently drives in Grand Am, right, and in all likelihood will continue. We don't know that yet, so that's why we haven't completed the process. And we have Jordan Taylor, who's the reigning Daytona prototype champion. So, obviously, as we balance our drivers throughout both series, our Chevrolet drivers, our task is figuring out where they're going to go, what they're going to do, and how it affects us at Corvette Racing. At the end of the day, if it turns out we need 2 third drivers, then we're going to go out and get 2 new third drivers.
I'm gonna ask you for the patience for a couple of more questions. We'll go quicker. So to finish the driver discussion, one time before in an earlier shakedown, you talked about the essence of a driver and their personality to meld with the team. I want to ask that same question. What do you look for from a Corvette Racing driver on their in-the-seat performance? What do you want to see from them behind the wheel?
This is a good question. Because, by the way, that's only one aspect of being a Corvette driver.
I know.
One aspect. So, to deal directly with that question, what do we look for? Number one, I look for patience. All right? And that is common sense. Do you go brain dead when your seat starts vibrating and your ears fill up with engine noise? There are people out there who do. Who can sit down and have a rational conversation with you, get in the car, and it becomes a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. That doesn't work. You have to be able to put your team and the result ahead of your own personal objectives. You have to be able to check your ego at the door. You have to be able to pay attention and follow 3 simple rules. Don't hit anything, don't break anything, keep it on the racetrack. You do those 3 things, good things will happen. Now, you can have that conversation with somebody, put them in the car, and not get the result you want. In and of itself, okay. As long as that person is trainable, as long as that person is bright enough and open enough to learn our system and learn our process, they will succeed, and that is why they stay. They have learned how we do it. And how we do it is just as I said, check the ego at the door, guys. You are no more important than the guys who are driving the transporter. You are equal tooth on this gear. The machine doesn't turn if your tooth breaks, and your tooth is no more or less important than everybody else's tooth. Once they understand that, that's when success comes their way. They've seen it, they've witnessed it, they've experienced it, and that's why we have the consistency in the driver lineup that we've had since our inception.
That was like feeding chum to the shark, because thank you. The sense of team and being smart, to me, has always been what a great driver is all about. It's not just drive it like you stole it or put your balls on the bar, whatever. Got it.
Let me put it this way. I don't need the flat-ass fastest guys to win.
Got it.
We don't need that. Our guys are plenty fast, and in most cases are the fastest guys. But I can tell you, we've had 2 24-hour Le Mans victories handed to us by guys who thought they were the fastest guys on the racetrack. Yeah. And by the way, were the fastest guys on the racetrack, but they didn't win.
Yeah. So I always love these conversations because I always think we're all going to be turning this into a snark fest, and then we get some good stuff. I'm torn between what to ask you last. I'm going to go here. Bear with me. In the link in this podcast video, I have our last discussion, and you listed 3 things about what you'd want to see from the new series going forward. I'm going to stay away from one because it's politically toxic right now. The other one you talked about from a marketing standpoint, but the last one you mentioned was tech. And I have been watching the racing when I'm not running around the track doing the business stuff. And I'm going to set up the question this way. Even in business, which is where I kind of live, I can work with an idiot as long as they're consistent. And I feel like in terms of tech and balance of performance and all that stuff, consistency is one of those factors. But now educate us all. What are you really looking for from the technical inspection, managing the parts, responsibility of a series to its teams and competitors and drivers and sport and blah, blah, blah?
We're far enough along in the sports car racing thing in America. We're mature enough that we should expect excellence, nothing less. And I think by any measure, when you look at what we've achieved in the American Le Mans Series, we have that. Consistency being a key element of that, and perhaps the most consistent. But nonetheless, it still has to be thorough, and it has to be meaningful. And it has to be a streamlined process that doesn't take 3 hours out of the day. But yet it has to be thorough enough that we're sure everybody's complying with the rules. Charlie Cook and the American Le Mans Series has done a marvelous job in assembling a tech team that, I can tell you this, is probably the best tech team I've ever encountered on any level of racing in which I've participated. They have hit all those things. They are thorough, they've streamlined it, and they're consistent. You do that, and you're going to have great racing. They've done that. And I have every reason to believe that's going to be pretty much plug and play. Okay. Charlie's already over there. He's already doing some of the already did some of the Grand Am races for them. I know a lot of his team members are going, so I see that as seamless. That is not on my concern list.
Appreciate your time. No matter where you are right now, I know I'm going to see you at Daytona come end of January. It'll all be great. Thank you again for the time.
Actually, I think we'll be down there for the Roar, too, the January 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Well, you know, the world revolves around me. I'm not sure I am, but good luck.
Oh, God, knowing that, we'll have to go back and reschedule.
Call me Copernicus. See you later.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.